Дорогие друзья,
Distinguished friends, we start the first plenary session of the Eurasian Digital Forum, and I would like to pass the floor for the complimentary speech to the Minister of Communications and Informatization of Belarus, Sergei Popkov. Good morning, all. I beg your pardon, maybe we start too early, but nevertheless, we have our agenda, which is hectic for today. I would like to thank our colleagues for participating in this forum, and I hope that we will have a fruitful discussion and we will understand what shall be the way for us to live and work in the field of digital transformation of economies of our countries. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the government of the Republic of Belarus, I would like to welcome you in Minsk City at the opening of the first Eurasian Digital Forum. The Republic of Belarus, as well as all developed countries, focuses on the issues of digital transformation of the economy, governance, and the social sector. This topic is a priority on the agenda for all developed countries and international organizations. And it has also been included in the national priorities of social and economic development of the Republic of Belarus. In late 2017, the President highlighted the line for further development of our country is building an IT country. In December, Belarus adopted Decree 8 by the President, which gave unprecedented rights to the residents of the high-tech park, and the newest technologies of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, smart contracts, and other technologies will be applied. Thanks to constant attention paid by the government and public authorities to the issues of digital transformation, the Republic of Belarus rightfully has taken the leading position in shaping its national digital market, and it has started active international activities aimed at developing cooperation and aligning the digital markets of the economic partner countries. In 2012, our country proposed to establish a common trade and information space of the Eurasian Union. And in 2013, Belarus became the founder of the initiative to harmonize the digital markets of the Eastern Partnership countries and the European Union. Under this initiative, the Republic of Belarus is the coordinator of activities in such areas as digitalization of trade, commerce, logistics, customs, and transport corridors. Successful implementation of the initiative to harmonize digital markets of Eastern Partnership countries and the EU, active cooperation of the Republic of Belarus with the Republic of Korea to develop the national paperless trade system, and cooperation with the People's Republic of China to implement the One Belt, One Road initiative become a baseline for expanding international cooperation in this field in the entire Eurasian region. This resulted in development of project concepts, a number of studies and pilot projects funded by the EU and ECE. Hence, the Republic of Belarus today plays a leading role in the development of projects on electronic and paperless trade, electronic logistics, and digital transport corridors in the countries of Central and Eastern Europe today. To discuss the national and the international concepts of digital transformation and alignment of digital markets, the government and the business community of the Republic of Belarus decided to hold the Eurasian Digital Forum under the TIBO ICT Forum in Minsk. The forum is suggested to discuss the topical issues of digital transformation and trade facilitation, ensuring interoperation of the national one-stop-shop systems for international trade, the systems and services of supply chain management. We hope the Eurasian Digital Forum will become an annual and efficient dialogue platform where business people and experts, government agencies of the Eurasian continent countries, governing bodies of international integration unions, will be able to discuss topical issues of establishment and alignment of the global digital market, and they will be able to make joint strategic decisions on the regional digital cooperation agenda. I wish all participants of the forum to enjoy successful and fruitful work and have a pleasant stay in Minsk city, the capital of the Republic of Belarus. I hope that once the forum is over and after you visit the exhibition and stands, we will be able to work out solutions in order to implement the projects that have been highlighted by the heads of our states, which refers to the Viking project, the Silk Road project, in order to develop ICT and digital transformation of our economies. And this will also facilitate the well-being of our nations. So all the best to all of us, and I hope that this forum will be fruitful. And now we have Dmitry Gennadievich, who is going to be our speaker, moderator, and we pass the floor to him. Thank you. The floor for the welcoming speech goes to Vice Minister of Information and Communications of Republic of Kazakhstan, Darin Tuyakov.
Как правильно здесь нажимать? Тут нажимать? Не совсем понял. Микрофон включить можно? Микрофон как включается? Включаю. Добрый день.
Good morning, distinguished colleagues. First of all, I would like to sincerely congratulate all people present here with the Victory Day we had on May the 9th. I would like to wish you peace and well-being, and I would also like to thank you for inviting me to the Eurasian Digital Forum. I would like to give my best regards to Renata Gasseva. We were in Sochi yesterday. I was as an expert there. And there were the heads of the states, the members of the highest Eurasian Economic Council. All of us, together with the Eurasian Economic Commission, work on implementing the digital agenda of the Union. And to do this, the countries have adopted all necessary documents. Yesterday, we also adopted a portfolio of documents. We also have the Initiatives Management Office. The representatives of the Eurasian Economic Union member states actively participate in platforms for discussing these initiatives. As I have already said, yesterday at the meeting of the highest committee, there was the meeting of the heads of states, and one of the topics they discussed was the digital agenda of the Eurasian Economic Union. Also, at the highest meeting of the Eurasian Economic Union, President Nazarbayev from Kazakhstan suggested that, in line with the established Technopark of IT startups, Astana Hub, in order to create the headquarters for managing digital projects at the premises of Expo in Kazakhstan. This year, at the International Forum, the digital agenda of informatization, the first large-scale meeting of experts was organized in order to discuss these issues. And today's forum is a continuation of the work that we have started in Almaty. I hope that these initiatives will foster initiatives, because this is the main role. And once again, I would like to state that for the initiatives to be efficient, we equally have to see the interest of all stakeholders in implementation. The Republic of Kazakhstan pays a lot of attention to digitalization. We actively work on digitalization of various sectors of the economy. We implement this approach under the national program Digital Kazakhstan in all sectors of the economy, and one of the important areas is to consider recommendations and opinions of international experts. I believe that today we'll be able to hear such opinions, and we would like these opinions to be constructive. I would like to wish all those who participate in today's forum to enjoy fruitful and good, productive work. Thank you. It is my pleasure to give floor to Deputy Minister of Communications and Mass Communications of Russian Federation, Mr. Alexei Kozyrev. Good morning. I would like to thank the hosts of our event for inviting us to Minsk. Belarusian soil is very hospitable. It has rich history and a beautiful nation. It is a real pleasure staying here. I welcome you at the first Eurasian Digital Forum on the topic of such an important issue as transformation of digital economies. Digital economies become a key driver of economic growth. Digital technologies are extremely important, and we pay a lot of attention to implementation of the digital agenda of the Eurasian Economic Union. The common digital space of our union is the main leverage for converting our union into integral institution that will foster and merge the efforts of all nations. Digital transformation agenda is high on the list for all countries of the Union, and it's important for us to coordinate and twin these efforts in all countries. That's why this work, this joint effort at such platforms as today's forum is extremely important. We have to remember the words said by Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, who addressed the member states of the Union. Since we started in January 1st this year, are the chair of the Eurasian Economic Union, and he mentioned this digital transformation agenda in his speech. I would like to wish all of us success, and I believe that only through joint efforts we will be able to implement digital initiatives in the Eurasian Union countries in order for these efforts to be enjoyed by all member states. Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, the floor goes to Deputy Minister of Communications of Egypt, head of Egyptian delegation that participates for the first time in TIBA Forum, Madam Nermina Sadani.
Good morning, everyone. It's my honor again to be with you today, and I would like to extend my sincere thanks for the warm hospitality we received yesterday, myself and my delegation. Today I would like to share with you some highlights on the ICT sector development in Egypt, and I have a few slides. I will not follow the sequence of the slides, but I hope that we can manage together. So let's move to the second slide, please. So the Ministry of Communication in Egypt for Information Technology and Communication was established in 1999. If you can move to the second slide, please. With the main objective is to set the national ICT strategy for Egypt, availing technology to the Egyptian population and maintaining affordable access to all. These were the humble, I would say, objective that Egypt has at this point in time in 1999. Through the years, the mission has changed, and now we are looking forward for more aspiration to have a knowledge-based society with digital financial inclusion, strong digital economy, equitable, affordable access remains very important to us as well. Development of a competitive, innovative national ICT that can lead the region, not only the country. The MCIT, or the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, doesn't work on its own. We work in partnership with different affiliation, whether within the government or with the private sector and even NGOs, where we encompass together all our effort so that we can leapfrog with the ICT sector across the country. Egypt has a very competitive edge, that is the abundant talents or the abundant pool of talents. You know, the Egyptian population now reach about 99 million population, and this could be a load on the economy and on the businesses and so on. But we look at this as well from the other side of the story, and we say that we have an abundant talent because about maybe 55% of the population comes from the young generation under the age of 35 years old, and we'd like to invest so much in this population so that we have a competitive young generation that can lead Egypt in the coming years. As well, the Egyptian territory is allocated in between Africa, Europe, Mediterranean, and Asia as well. So the middle location of Egypt, as you will see through the slides later on, will give us some competitive advantage among our neighbor. As you are all aware, the UN has set the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and the world has been speaking about this sustainable goals, and they are speaking about how to move ahead with agriculture, with water, with education, with health, and so on and so forth. The ICT, as I mentioned yesterday in my opening remarks, we believe it's a key pillar to develop each and every sector of those. So we set our 2030 Egyptian Sustainable Development Strategy based on these sustainable development goals. So we have economic pillar, we have social justice pillar, education, innovation, transparency to eradicate corruption, security, of course, and we will see this as well, energy, culture, health, and so on and so forth. If we can move to slide 8, please, because I would like to, slide 8.
Восьмой, следующий слайд. И еще один шаг вперед. И еще.
Yes, please, thank you. I'm sorry about that. I don't have the laptop, or else I would have managed my presentation. But I wanted you to see on screen where we are and what kind of themes that we are focusing during this year in specific. We have a special focus on big data, on technology parks, digital financial inclusion, cybersecurity, capacity building, like training, cloud computing, electronic industry, innovation entrepreneur, and smart learning. And I assume that everyone around the room would agree with me that these are key aspects of the development of the ICT across any country, whether it is developed or even developing countries. So Egypt has this special focus, and we have specific strategy and plan how are we going to implement each and every of those themes. I would highlight in my coming slides just few of them for your kind attention. So if we move to the next slide, please. We are lucky to have a president who believes in ICT, who really admires how ICT and appreciates how ICT can develop the economy and can benefit the people. So our president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the Egyptian president, set the plan himself that we as a sector focus on 3 main initiatives. The first one is electronic design and manufacturing. The second, empowering youth development. And the last one will be the technology parks. And for the first time in Egypt, we see the manufacturing of electronic and design is set on the agenda with the objective or with the goal to reach $60 billion for industry and to export around 30 billion. And I'm very, very honored as well and proud to announce that we have already established or manufactured the first Egyptian mobile called Seiko. The brand is Seiko, and they are exporting now in Africa and in some countries of the Middle East, specifically Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates. So this will create, and the objective is we are going to create 300,000 jobs in this specific sector. The other theme will be the technology parks, and if we move 2 slides, please. You know that Egypt is very famous and maybe one of the pioneers in establishing technology parks, or like Silicon Valley kind of places. We previously have 2 parks in Cairo, and the plan is to set another 7, or to establish another 7 parks across the governorate of Egypt, not only in the big cities or on the big capital, but also as well across, as the map shows you. We have now one in Alexandria, one in Upper Egypt, Asyut, Bani Suef, and many other. So we have 7, and we have established around 4, establishing or moving ahead with the establishment of the rest across the coming years as well. Youth has always been a core of our focus across the years. The Egyptian president really appreciates the young generation, and we believe that the Egyptian young generation are very intelligent and smart, and for that we have set the plan to enhance their competitiveness, profitability, and through professional training, not only on the ICT components, but also on soft skills, so that we turn Egypt into a regional hub for capacity building and training of the young generation. This is a program, if we move to slide 15, please. This program will enhance the Egyptian capabilities, and the plan is to train about 16,000 every year. This is a very big number, and last year we have graduated the first bunch of people, not 16,000 of course, but still was quite a big number. And this is fully funded by the government. The students do not pay anything. We fund and we sponsor them, and we have partnered already with big reputable universities such as MIT, such as Stanford, such as Oxford, and so on and so forth, so that we bring to the Egyptian population the best across the world. The following is related to the youth as well, and if we move to the following slide, we will have innovation, end-to-end support, entrepreneur, and startups is key in our agenda. We have created incubator for the young generation, and this is a very interesting slide showing to your kind self some of the projects or the applications that have been developed and market in the international market, or sold in the international market. I would draw your kind attention to the very bottom right of the slide. There is an application called Visita, this one over there, and this one is for medical health. So this one encompasses some of the very efficient doctors of all categories, where you can, through the application, you can communicate with the doctor in specific area, for example, heart diseases or eye diseases or whatever, and they can either prescribe through the application, or they can come for a home visit on special rates that are already announced. When we were in the United States at the Silicon Valley a year ago, and we've presented this as one of our accomplishments, and as you can see, it was sold for $5 million US. The rate within the Silicon Valley companies there, they remarked that this is a very low rate, and if this kind of application were sold in the United States, it could have raised about $15,000 US. So next time we will partner with one of those companies so that we prevail more opportunities to our startups. The following slides will show you just how Egypt is a hub. As I told you, the geographical location of the Egyptian territory is very central. So this is the way we attract. If we move to the second slide, please. Very much maybe every multinational of all categories and specification you will find in Egypt allocated basically at one of the technology parks or elsewhere, but basically most of them are in the technology park. And the following slide is even more strategic because it will show you how Egypt is a hub for submarine cables. The following slide, please. The following slide, please. Yes. How Egypt is a hub for the submarine cable. So Egypt now has 17 routes, 17 submarine cable that carries the capacities up to 60 CBS, and it crosses about or reaches about 60 plus countries within its territory and neighborhood. So we reach Europe, we reach Asia, we reach Africa, and we reach, of course, the Middle East. And the plan is continuing, and we have the plan to increase about four more of this submarine cables and land cables as well, so that we cover the Nile Basin countries, and this is very, very important to us as well. As for our telecom market, now we have up and running 4 operators that have bundle of services, data, fixed and mobile, on 4G basis. As I mentioned also yesterday, we are now studying the transformation to the 5G. I hope maybe by next year, because we are hosting the World Radio Communication Conference of the ITU. So the 5G will be implemented on a pilot basis during the WRC event in Egypt, and I hope I can see you there, all of you. The Egyptian legislation, we did not forget that this is very, very important to have the enabling environment through sound laws. So we have set some very, very important piece of legislation on the telecom law, e-signature, free flow of information, cybercrime, child online protection, which we believe very, very important across the globe, transparency and competitiveness, as well as trade agreements and trade laws. Finally, I would just highlight that cybersecurity remains very important to us, and I think it's very, very important to all other countries as well, of all the world, developed or developing. Cyber-terrorism is very, very crucial and very, very dangerous, and the critical resources of any country is very fragile, and we need to collaborate together, and this is something that we cannot do on our own. If you move to slide 23, please. 23, yes, move ahead again. Please move ahead. Again, move ahead. Yes. So we cannot collaborate on our own. We have to collaborate together, so we can cover all these, I would say, aspects of the cyber world, so that we can protect our infrastructure and we can move ahead. And for the first time, I would use my Russian language, and I will leave you with Masiba. Masiba. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, distinguished colleagues, we now received the welcoming speech from the Ministry of Transportation and High Technology of the Azerbaijan Republic. And to read that speech, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Rashat Azizov, the Deputy Chair of the Innovation Department of the Ministry of High Technologies of Azerbaijan Republic.
Прежде всего, от имени азербайджанской делегации позвольте поблагодарить организаторов юбилейной 25-го ИКТ-форума ТИБА-2018 за радушный прием, который был оказан нашей делегации и всем гостям в городе-герое Минск. Позвольте зачитать приветствие министрам. Уважаемые участники форума, от имени Министерства транспорта, связи и высоких технологий Азербайджанской Республики и от себя лично поздравляю вас с открытием Евразийского цифрового форума, проводимого в рамках юбилейного 25-го Международного форума по информационно-коммуникационным технологиям ТИБА-2018 и желаю плодотворной работы. Сегодня информационные технологии внедряются повсеместно и кардинально преображают все сферы жизнедеятельности человека. Информационные технологии стали благоприятным средством обеспечения устойчивого развития, усиления интеллектуального потенциала и продвижения бизнеса, превратились в важный фактор повышения прозрачности в обществе. Цифровая повестка и динамичное развитие IT-сферы входит в число приоритетных задач последовательного развития наших государств. Между Белоруссией и Азербайджаном существуют дружеские и деловые отношения во многих областях, в том числе и в сфере
Belarus has a lot of business relations, and we have achieved considerable success, and we gladly share our experience and opinions in different forums and international expositions. It has become a tradition for Azerbaijani delegation to actively participate in forum TIBO, and Belarusian delegation participates in the International Expo of Telecommunication and Information Technologies Bakutel that is held in Baku. The forum agenda reflects a lot of relevant issues such as digital transformation, development of digital economy, and digital trade and transportation corridors. I'm sure that today's forum will become an efficient platform for discussing this important issue, the acquisition of new knowledge, ideas, and their implementation. I wish to all the participants productive and efficient work. Respectfully yours, the Ministry of High Technologies and Communications of Azerbaijani Republic, Ramin Namik Aglu Gozalde. So, dear colleagues, I would like to continue our work, and according to our agenda of the plenary session, we have speakers from the vast Eurasian space. And the first speaker of the business part of our conference will be the Deputy Chair of the Council of Directors and Executive Director of the Huawei company, Mr. Goapin. Goapin, you're welcome. So, dear Dmitry Gennadievich, Donetsk Rebekovich, Karina Agassi, Alexey Olengovich, and Kirill Valentinovich, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very glad to be here in Minsk and to discuss with friends the topic of digital economy. As a technological company, Huawei defined the following tasks: cooperation with stakeholders in the Eurasian region, the review of issues of how to transform ICT into the driver of sustainable development and sustainable social and economical development. We have the fundamental ideas about the future, where digital technologies will radically change people, families, and all organizations. Today in Minsk streets you can see that to call a cab you just use the applications for Uber and taxi and use the Yandex Navigator, and you pay your bills, utility bills, in the single payment system EURIP. And the introduction of digital technologies make our life more convenient. We all know that in the last 10 years it was the period of the most rapid development of mobile internet. In the foreseeable future, the share of people that receive access to broadband mobile internet will increase. There will also be an increase in the number of devices, home-based devices, and according to our estimates it will be 20 billion units. And while we have 80% of different entities, now it's only 13% of entities that have such connection. Across the world, the digital and smart technologies are being implemented. The smart society includes such things as smart terminals. Not only our smartphones become intelligent, but many items and devices are now equipped with sensors determining the humidity, the light intensity, the temperature. Such devices will help people feel better and sense better the environment. The connectivity is all over the place. We use the modern technologies starting from bracelets and major machines in plants and factories. Everything should be connected to the internet. Internet is omnipresent. And last but not least, the cloud storages, which can store huge amounts of data. The development of algorithms on artificial intelligence will help us manage society, and the foundation of all these processes is cloud technologies. Let's review an example of China. From the figures given on the slide, you can see that in the era of digital economy has arrived. Last year, the total number of mobile payments exceeded 30 trillion US dollars, while the mobile commerce transactions accounted for 67% of the world total amount. All this is based on the construction of basic networks. Let's take Shenzhen city, where the headquarters of Huawei is based. The total area is less than 2 square thousand meters, while the 4G basic stations the number of 4G stations is more than 36,000. And in the view of the mass-scale construction of 4G networks, the government promoted the implementation of different technologies, including the digital applications and software. And now we're living in the situation of mutual win-win situation, when the operators' revenue exceeded $195 billion, while the over-the-top revenue is 220 billion US dollars, while the overall nation-wide revenue is more than 3.5 trillion US dollars. And the rapidly developing mobile broadband connectivity and the software has become two integral elements of the development of digital economy in China. Well, in the government point of view, the basic structure, including the broadband mobile connectivity, is only a condition of the development of digital technologies. As we know, Maslow has a pyramid of human needs, from the physiology to security and self-realization. In my opinion, and the opinion of the country, the human needs, when translating into digital transformation, technologies can be divided into 4 tiers, from the higher to the lower tiers.
The first level is the baseline for creation and dissemination of the ICT infrastructure and for building digital economies. The second level is security, which includes both physical security and cyber security. This is the guarantee of development. The third level is supporting implementation of digital technologies and the introduction in all sectors of the economy. And the highest level is implementation of single planning and management, starting from the city and to the country. This is using a big brain or big intelligence systems. And then I would like to tell you about cyber security and using the smart cities and applying these technologies in urban environments. Implementation of digital technologies in the economies of different countries happens differently. The majority of countries support such sectors that enables them to benefit the most. I would like to refer to an example from the logistics sector, because I'm convinced Belarus pays special attention to the development of this sector. I believe this will inspire you. All people know that logistics is very competitive, and that the success of a logistics company is based on matured chain of supply. DHL is one of the leaders in logistics, which pays a lot of attention to new technologies. In the beginning of last year, Huawei cooperated with DHL, and using the industrial equipment for the Internet of Things and the baseline infrastructure, we've established a number of solutions to ensure efficient supply chain. After piloting DHL with using wireless technologies and the Internet of Things, automated inventory of the main assets, which enabled to cut it down from 1 or 2 days to make an inventory to just a matter of seconds. And the efficiency grew by 30% and the costs were reduced by more than 50%. In the future, DHL expects to use reliable IoT and blockchain technologies to create a reliable business model for multiple subjects and entities, freight forwarders, consignors and consignees, in order for the asset owner to be sure that the goods will be delivered. This will also enable to cut down the transportation costs, and this will also facilitate development of economies in various scales. And now let us have a look at this from the other side, and I would like to start with the safety and security of towns. Please have a look at this video clip. Lungan in Shenzhen has 387 square kilometers. The population is 3.9 million people. GDP of the region is over $40 billion. Nevertheless, this city faces traffic jams, overpopulation, and insufficient police. And this is a certain threat to the public security of Lungan. Enabling law enforcement agencies to use ICT is a solution. A Lungan Safe City framework is based on ICT and the logical network of based on artificial intellect, and the data is shared between cloud computing technologies, and this enables smart police. 3,555 CCTV cameras are connected in the network, and over 4,000 sites are under video surveillance. Therefore, police ensures comprehensive law enforcement in the district. The platform also traces nonstandard behavior of people and vehicles. There's a command center which changes the routine of police into the manageable artificial intellect system. This system significantly improved safety and security in Lungan. We could see how smart police works in Lungan district. This system of public security enabled to reduce the number of incidents by 29%, and that the efficiency of resources has grown by over 60%. And police operations is just a part of Smart Shenzhen initiative, which through an intellectual smart center controls the situation in the city in real-time mode. This holistic city management is enabled by big data management. After coming back to Belarus, I could see that this country, as well as many other innovative countries of the world, expect and rely on using technologies of the ICT in order to improve its competitiveness, to attract investments, and to improve the living standards of citizens. Today, I have been speaking about logistics, and we all know that Belarus has a favorable geographical position and it can fully utilize application of digital technologies in order to create a regional, large logistics hub. I also know that under the new 5-year plan, Belarus suggests to tackle 12 key issues in the development of the ICT sector, including expanding broadband access of households, developing of e-government, and the projects of smart houses. We can see that the Belarusian economy is focused on the implementation of digital technologies. In my view, this is a very positive agenda that can be achieved, and once this broadband access is implemented and cloud services are introduced, working in online mode, we will be fully able to utilize the matured environment, and this digitalization of the society will become a reality. And now I would like to voice a few proposals to the Belarusian counterparts in order to ensure transformation of Belarus into a digital society. First of all, this is infrastructure. We need to significantly develop the infrastructure sites of fixed and mobile communications. According to the IDI and GDI indexes, Belarus is one of the top countries in Central Asia, and this is a good baseline. And broadband internet access needs to be expanded and strengthened. Today, the 4G network coverage is less than 20%. And in this area, we have things to strive for. In the meantime, the government of Belarus fully supports and assists development of application software and enables various sectors of the economy to make their own steps and mistakes. Tolerance in management and oversight, stimulation of investments will enable mobile communications operators and providers and the providers of other digital services to develop this. And speaking of urban safety and security, the security system applies standard cluster systems of voice and PTT modes. Multi-mode approaches have not been implemented in full, and we would like to share our practices of a single smart city of Shenzhen. We can see that today there is a need for establishment of city brain, and big cloud development is an important and logical step in introducing cloud technologies in governance. Government agencies, once using such digital format, will be able to utilize the infrastructure that already exists and then gradually develop city brains. In these areas, Huawei is ready to work and cooperate with local operators and partners in order to look for optimal technological solutions. In addition to products and technological solutions suggested by Huawei, we have also undertaken a number of initiatives in the field of training of experts and talent development in the IT field, and also in facilitating development of the eco-environment and ICT environment in European and Central Asian countries. Speaking of training the experts, Huawei actively cooperates with the Belarusian Communications University and also with the Belarusian Radio Technical University, where we created a joint training center to train experts in the field of ICT. In general, over 95 students have already visited China under the training program called Seeds of the Future, organized by Huawei. In 2017, Huawei, the Ministry of Communications and the Ministry of Education of Belarus signed an agreement on training talented youth, and according to this agreement, over 1,000 young talented students and researchers will get trained in China. And at last, the irreplaceable element of ICT development is joint development of ecosystems. Huawei perfectly understands that digitalization and implementation of digital technologies is a sophisticated systemic construction which engages a few vertical systems of economy. In order to efficiently deliver services in regions, we have to be based on local platforms, and also we have to consider local peculiarities and context of the regions that we would like to work with. In this regard, we implement a number of projects like Smart Home, Open Lab, and yesterday the Belarusian Chinese Industrial Park also had a ceremony of opening a joint innovation center. For us it was a great honor and is a great honor that we are one of the partners of Belarus in developing digital technologies in this country, which will facilitate active development of the economy in such areas as construction, transport, industry, safety and security of cities, finance, energy, etc. Today we are ready to help Belarus building a reliable basement for digitalization of the society. Please let me finish my presentation saying how Huawei sees our common future and its main mission. According to our assessments and evaluations estimates of further development, Huawei has a new mission: bring digital to every person, home and organization for a fully connected, intelligent world. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. We give the floor to the member of the Collegium, Minister of Internal Markets of the Eurasian Economic Committee, Karine Minasen. Distinguished colleagues, good morning. Dear friends, participants of the TIBA 2018 Jubileum 25th Forum, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you here on behalf of the Eurasian Economic Commission, the summit of which happened yesterday, and the presidents of our countries, once again, all without exclusion, stressed the importance of implementation of a joint digital agenda. It is a special pleasure to make a presentation here at this forum because I think in Belarus you can see the highest concentration of ICT experts in our union, and raising the issues that we're concerned about here at TIBO will enable us to find all necessary answers to questions, and the questions are not easy, especially when we speak not about when we speak about the countries and the regional levels. In my presentation, I will do my best to answer two questions. And the first question is, why still we believe that digital agenda shall be implemented together? And the second question is, how we see this. What is our vision based on the orders of our leaders, and how we're supposed to implement it together?
So, the question is why. Firstly, and most importantly, in my opinion, is the factor that we've already agreed among all our 5 countries on working together and creating joint tangible markets in the tangible world. When talking about the transformation of the economy, we should realize that if we don't work as a team in the digital world, we're going to create additional barriers, and are already creating those barriers. Let me give you an example. A lot of you already heard about the projects being implemented on the labeling and tracking labels for our countries. If we don't implement those projects of digitalization and of creation of the digital replicas of those countries, then in those 5 countries we will have 5 labeling systems, which means for business, especially for the participation in the trans-border or cross-border business, they will have participate in 5 different labeling systems, and in the system of digital images of goods. This is very expensive for business, and this is very time and resource consuming effort, because in our opinion it seems everything quite easy and logical to create joint resources, to build systems that would be interoperable and that would be based on the common principles that would allow to save resources for all participants and players in the goods turnover. The second answer to the question why together is competitiveness. We have to, as the Huawei company put it, create our own global companies. Can a small country penetrate and implement such projects? It will be very difficult, because setting up such companies is, first of all, requires support, governmental support, and requires collecting a lot of competencies, and requires efforts and governmental support in terms of creating enabling environment for their growth. The second argument in this area is the economy of scale. When we set up goods that are not designed for the internal domestic market, but at least for the 108 million consumer market of the Eurasian Union, the company will get its advantages, and our goal is to create the enabling environment for the creation of such consortiums and to ensure the competitiveness in the global digital market. And thirdly is the international cooperation. We have to build in each country cooperation with other associations, and if we do that in each individual case individually, then we'll have to adapt to each external system that our country wants to work with. We're talking about very simple things here. If we join our efforts and create joint systems, like joint digital customs systems, tracking systems, the joint systems for management of digital transportation corridors, and the systems of mutual trust, by doing so, we will act as a one player in the international market and will be treated as a big player which plays according to the joint standards and unified norms. These are the reasons why we should work together. And now let me tell you how we started implementing the digital agenda of the Eurasian Union. When we were adopting our agenda, we agreed that, first of all, it is important for us to work with initiatives coming from business and not to start with the traditional way of creating the legislative field, legislative framework, and then wait that the business within this framework is going to develop the digital agenda. We put it in a very simple way. We said, colleagues, let's implement joint initiatives. We created a mechanism that is already operational, and we have already received around 10 initiatives from different governmental agencies, business entities, and we are now working on those initiatives. One of them was submitted to the Council of the Eurasian Commission. It was adopted, and now the implementation has started. One initiative is already being implemented. It's an initiative on the tracking system of the Eurasian Union, and hopefully we are going to receive from the Belarusian community and all initiative groups their proposals to implement in the digital environment. Today we'll have the first, tomorrow we'll have the first semi-final for the digital platforms competition, and I invite you all to this event and to see what projects and who comes with those projects to our platform, to have them implemented and scaled up. The third area is the implementation of baseline projects. We do not start implementing the digital agenda from scratch, because already now we have built around 80 joint processes in the Eurasian area, and we are digitalizing them for electronic digital interaction between the governmental agencies and businesses in our countries. We're setting up cross-border area of mutual trust, and based on the initiatives proposed by the government and businesses, we're going to build other common basic resources that will facilitate business activities in the Eurasian area. Here we're talking about the creation of joint standards, classifiers, reference books, the creation of a unified system of identification of business entities, the setting up of the joint system of identification of items, and the creation of area of mutual trust. And this list is going to be supplemented and added up to with the arrival of new players. And we're going to base our actions on the needs of the business, and we're going to create cross-border basic resources for the Eurasian Union. And finally, I would like to mention the necessity for the coordinated policy. When we say that digital economy is an economy of data, then naturally we have to build the legislative framework for the data in the Eurasian Union area to be safe, and so that we could ensure their free movement. Therefore, on the platform of the Eurasian Economic Commission, we have already started developing an agreement on data turnover and flow, and we are inviting all interested experts and stakeholders to join in our efforts. In conclusion of my speech, I would like to address the colleagues from Belarus and say that Belarus, as it was mentioned today, is in a very interesting geographical position, and Belarus can become a bridge for the international projects, not only within the Eurasian Union, but for projects with the European Union. Today we listened to our colleagues from China and Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan can become a bridge for cooperation and the creation of systems that would ensure the movement of goods across our Eurasian space between China and Kazakhstan. And by joining our efforts, we can create an efficient and digital technology-based transportation corridors, and we can achieve all those objectives that were set before us within the development of integration space of the Eurasian area. Now I invite you all to participate in the sessions that are being organized on TIBO platform by Eurasian Economic Commission. In the afternoon, we suggest that you join the discussion of the issues related to the setting up of transportation corridors in the Eurasian Union. Tomorrow, as I already said, we'll have a semi-final of the competition called Eurasian Digital Platforms, the Belarusian aspect of it. And we also discuss the issues of digitalization of agriculture. Thank you for your attention. I wish you successful work and specific tangible results. Thank you, dear friends. Once again, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the plenary discussion format does not allow us, unfortunately, to ask questions to the speakers, but we're going to continue our work in a more friendly and informal environments throughout today and tomorrow. So all your ideas that you have, you should put them down and then ask them when we continue our discussions, so that we have some kind of feedback. Now I'm giving the floor to the plenipotentiary ambassador of the Republic of Belarus in China, Kirill Rudy. Distinguished colleagues, first of all, allow me to thank the hosts of the forum for their invitation. It is always a pleasure to come back to my motherland on a business trip. And my speech is called IT in China, not the first impression, because I've lived a total of 8 years in China. So I would like to share my not first expression of how this sector is developing in China. Well, if you want to take a look how IT is going to be like in Belarus in 5 years, then believe you me, you don't have to go to China. You just have to take a look what China looked like 5 years ago. Today in China you can find all the cutting-edge technologies and see the future not only for the developing countries but for many developed countries. The first impression when a person arrives in China about IT is quite contradictory and can be quite opposite. And many people criticize it and say that in China everything is slow and difficult, censorship and propaganda all over the place, websites are being blocked, the social media are being blocked, low quality of services. On the other hand, we have very excited impressions, and that in China everything is very well thought through, everything is fast, a lot of IT products and services. At the same time, they're quite expensive. So from such going from one extremity to another, there is a third stage, a stage of silence and mulling over, thinking over. In China, they say, the person who knows doesn't speak, and the person who doesn't know speaks. So allow me, as a person who doesn't know a lot, nevertheless to share my impressions of China. So the first impression of China is that it is a very big and fastly growing country. The number of internet users is more than 700 million users, and the number is increasing monthly by the entire internet users population of Belarus. So big data is the main technology in China. It is manifested in trade, car sharing, bike sharing, artificial intelligence, security, public control. Analysis of big data in trade allows to immediately respond to changes in the trends and narrow the gap between the design and the manufacturer to 3 days. There is no such things anymore as a spring or autumn collection in fashion. You can cut it down to 3 days, which accelerates the goods turnover and economy. and the big data technologies ensure the increase in GDP by 2% annually. The analysis of big data in health allow us to tackle previously incurable diseases. Last year, Fuzhou authorities transferred to companies big data from the ultrasounds and of hearts, and the analysis of big data allows us to identify the behaviors and cultural behaviors of people and allow us to ensure public security and safety. In Shenzhen city, which is the IT capital of China, there is a system of face recognition which can identify traffic rule violations. In Shenzhen city, a public control system is being tested when, based on the behavior, people are given scores and their access to services is based on their score. Half of the Chinese people leave their homes with less than $15 in their pockets. In all kiosks and retail outlets, they pay for the services by scanning the QR code and use the international e-payment systems on the web. The main problem that I face in the stores is that I catch angry looks from the people around me because I'm the only one having cash there, and the shop assistants is looking for change. The Chinese online trade grows 2 times faster than the market in the United States. The investments into the manufacturing is being increased, in the design and brand and services are now account to more than half of the economy of China. The third impression is that China is a startup country. More than 60% of GDP of China is being created by small and medium enterprises, which daily dies and then is getting reborn. So if you like a small barber shop or restaurant in China, the next time you arrive to China, you won't find it anymore. The share of startups is 10%, which is 300,000 per year. They have their own ecosystem. On the one hand, it is the infrastructure, business incubators, venture funds, governmental funds. On the other hand, China has a tradition of starting all over, being a startup country. And despite the fact that 90% of startups in China die within first year, those who survive become a major international corporation as Alibaba, Tencent, Huawei, ZTE, etc. In the recent future in Hong Kong, a major IPO of a China's Xiaomi company is being expected for more than $700 billion. The first impression is China has a clear vision of their IT future. They have 3 major strategies. Made in China 2025 on supporting their own high technologies. The second is Internet Plus, the dissemination of Internet in the government, trade, agriculture and other sectors. Third is the 10-year strategy of development and informatization. So among the future sectors of China are big data, financial technologies, cloud technologies, biotechnologies, biomedicine, clean energy, new materials, smart production, Internet of Things, transfer of data. And what is the role of the government in all of this?
The government in the ICT sector defines the goals and terms and creates the infrastructure, 4G and 5G coverage. The government supports small businesses and engages highly qualified staff. That's it. The rest issues, financial incentives, etc., are provided by market mechanisms. The government is engaged only as a co-shareholder. There are no special tax incentives for this sector. There are no budget subsidies. Today, there is a good saying in China, moving ahead, do not forget about the initial goal. So when moving into the future, China understands that they are developing IT country where less than 50% of its territory have 4G coverage, and internet penetration is 58% of the population. In Belarus, it is 71%. In the USA, it is 96%. And the fifth, the ultimate impression of China is that China is a centralized IT country. The IT sector is very monopolized there. For example, two large companies as Alibaba and Tencent own 90% of all online trade, 85% of online payments, 85% of social networks. IT in China is practically closed from foreign competition. They have their own Google, which is called Baidu. They Twitter, Baidu. They have Zhengzhen instead of Facebook. Instead of YouTube, they have Youku. Instead of WhatsApp, they have WeChat. The main purpose is to control the largest IT market in the world. China is aimed at establishing its own rules and standards, its own mindset of consumption, which means prohibition of cryptocurrencies and managed blockchain. They are focused on control and self-sufficiency, and there is a certain risk that the country won't be able to overcome certain quality challenges in the IT sector, because as income grows, quality requirements grow. However, the Chinese perception of China as of a country of low price also slows down its innovations and quality developments. This is a trap of high income for IT China. But China can see these risks, and that's why they start digitalization. They have more and more startups that compete with monopolies. Foreign companies through Hong Kong enter continental IT market. Tens of millions of microbloggers compete with public media. Access to Google and other international media can be ensured by ExpressVPN, and it is possible to overcome the requirements for terminology by using euphemisms, and they can also get information through, for example, the website of USA embassy. So this is quite specific. In the end, I would like to show you a 3-minute video clip about IT in China that was made by EPAM and the Embassy of Belarus to China. In this video clip, you will be able to see that China is a very efficient IT country, and indeed this is the first impression. And the first thing is that China is large, sophisticated and developing IT country where you can see and find all. That's why I believe your impression will not depend on China, but on yourself. What you want to see there, what you want to learn there, what you are ready to work with China, you will get. In Belarus, in the IT sector, we have competitive advantages when working with China, including political support, affordable pricing, certain quality level of IT products, liberal investment legislation. That's why I believe that after having this presentation today, after watching this video, you will have your impression, and then you will be able to start cooperation. Now take a look at the screen. IT in China, first impressions. For the last few years, China faced the IT revolution, after which the speed of innovation in life has gathered unprecedented pace. Today in the country you can see unique penetration of IT technologies in daily life. In the streets of any town in China you can pay for goods and services using a mobile phone by just scanning a QR code, and the application will transfer money from your bank account to the seller. Cash is not used. In fact, today over half of all payments are transferred through AliChat and Alipay. And today people take their mobile phones with them in order to pay. China has the widest bike sharing network in the world. You make a deposit of $25 in the bank and then use your mobile phone to scan a QR code. You can open a bike, and then for yuan you can use it, and then you can live it anywhere you want. Bikes are equipped with GPS, Wi-Fi, charger, and the routes of bikes are analyzed and constantly corrected, and they are disseminated across cities. China is a country which buys practically all goods for life through internet and mobile applications. And on average, every Chinese citizen spends 30 minutes per day in Taobao, which is 3 times longer than an average American in spending in Amazon. As a result, internal consumption grows, and the services sector exceeds 50% of the country's GDP. This changes the entire concept of trade in total. For example, Starbucks has its largest and the first of the world interactive shop in Shanghai. Digital technologies already unite online and offline trade. Leading IT companies are now competing in establishing new mechanisms to attract buyers to their shops. They convert traditional shopping into an interactive game. Emerging retail and IT industry created a new type of shops, grocery stores that are open 24/7. They have goods but no shop attendants. You use a QR code to enter a shop. This is used in order to identify a person. Then you also pay using your mobile phone. And this is not a pilot shop. In Shenzhen there are over 300, and in Beijing there are over 1,000. All of these things that have emerged in China is an IT reality. In order to survive in it, you have to constantly adapt, change, and use it. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Kirill Valentinovich. We continue our work, and we are getting to the opposite side of the digital Silk Road to Europe, and I would like to pass the floor to the regional advisor of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, Maria Apostolov. Thank you for the honor to make a presentation at this forum. Belarus for us is a valuable member of the UN and UN ECE, and this is a very promising country in terms of our cooperation. And as we could see in the presentation made by Kirill Rudy, ambassador of Belarus to China, Belarusians have the critical mind, and this is very important for innovative solutions and for development. It is my pleasure to have my presentation. After Karine Benassian, we had a joint project on the one-stop shop together with the Eurasian Economic Commission, and the issues of coordinating the data that we agreed, we discussed yesterday at the meeting of presidents. That's why, for me, it's a great honor to be here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I represent UNECE, which is dealing with the standards, conventions, recommendations in several fields of cooperation between countries. From Europe to Vladivostok and Vancouver, as we frequently say. And in this area, we also have work on standards, on the issues of simplifying the trade procedures. That's why my presentation on simplifying trade and automating trade, on their linkage, is what has already been mentioned a bit, and all the issues of standards cover this, because in order to make a system, in order to enable computers to talk to themselves, they have to be using the same language, to use the same elements of data, determinations of and the classifications of data, and our organization is dealing with this. Simplification of trade is, by definition, of our trade simplification and electronic business is simplification, expanding, ensuring transparency, but I will also mention automation of information exchange in the processes of simplification of trade. And the definition stipulates the importance of simplification of procedures for physical movement of goods, but also for information exchange, because goods cannot move faster through borders than the information about them. In order to make sure that the goods have information and provide information at their movement, beg your pardon. Simplification of trade is like an airplane with two wings. On the one hand, you have simplification of procedures for businesses, and on the other hand, there is an element of improving efficiency of control, of supervision, because all these oversight requirements are dictated by the requirements of societies and countries in order to ensure safety and security of societies, and simplification and automation of trade procedures have such an important element as improving the efficiency of oversight. I have already said that in the UN ECE, which is one of the 5 regional UN commissions, there is a center on simplifying procedures of trade and on e-business, which develops standards for e-business. And among these standards, there's the UNLK template for simplification of trade. This standard was reworked last year for e-documents. And there is still the only global standard for e-data exchange, which is called EDIFACT. And there are also main standards and classifiers for defining the elements of data, as the UN classifier for the elements of data and specifications of key components. And we have a number of recommendations on one-stop shop or single window. This is what I have already mentioned, what we worked on together with the Eurasian Economic Commission. In the meantime, CFACT of UN, CCTS, works on several projects. And I cannot describe all of them due to time constraints, but among these projects, there is a project on comprehensive services for small and medium enterprises for them to be engaged in international trade. In terms of one-stop shop, there are solutions for import and export formalities. Right now, we're reworking the recommendation number 3 in order to include the capacity of regions. Another recommendation that we're working on is the recommendation on what to do if a single window doesn't work efficiently. So how trade can be continued. This is in order to ensure some contingency plans in case of failure of a single window. We also expect that a portal shall be established for the conveyor of data, but I'm going to refer to this later. I have already said that one of the areas in terms of simplification of trade and e-business is a one-stop shop or single window. The UNSCE Simplification of Trade and E-Business Center has a number of recommendations, one on single window, on alignment of data and operations of single window, and then the fourth one is on interoperability between single windows of different countries. Speaking of our project with the Eurasian Economic Commission, we have developed a number of tools. For example, the regulatory documents for the highest level, they were adopted. Then we developed the reference model of the single window. The Belarusian consortium became a bid winner to establish this reference model of single window at the Eurasian Economic Union. And we have also organized joint training to analyze business processes. And the colleagues who work with us on these issues are here in this room. So it is also a pleasure that we continue. But this is a sophisticated process, and we can see it goes differently in different countries. For example, in Kazakhstan, they have the Sakura project, which also includes the elements of a single window, and Kyrgyzstan has its own project. So everything shall be based on this single standards. This slide illustrates our idea of the recommendation 36 on interoperability of the single window for export and import clearance. There are 4 pillars in this recommendation. First of all, we have to use single or unified definitions and elements of data, unified standards for the elements of data, because what is a commodity or transportation document when it is on paper and or as an electronic document. So these are just the boxes with the elements of data. So for these elements of data, they exchange between countries and companies. It's important for them to be based on the same standards, for the systems to be talking the same language. But computers, well, we can see what's going on in the world today. We could see it in the presentations, but computers are like 85 years old when Jonathan Asif created the first computer. So we are 85 years after that, and the human brain was shaped for millions of years. So computers have to use these tools, and they have to compress this. And computers supposed to get ready-made classifications and codes in order to exchange information. Otherwise, they won't tackle. I would like to refer to one of our standards, which is called low code, which is for codification of places related to trade. We work a lot with Odessa. There are 7 cities in the world that are called Odessa. If you do not indicate to your computer, if a person does not give a computer a right code of the destination, then you can find your goods in Ontario or USA, because there are also Odessas, not only in Ukraine. You have to specify a clear code. Sometimes goods get to Dakar, to Senegal, but not in Dhaka in Bangladesh, because there are mistakes. So computers must have these well-working codes for them to be well used. And this is the first pillar, for us to have common standards for data exchange. The second pillar is semantics. Information exchange between single windows has to be done on several levels. On the semantics level, for the things to mean the same thing. Second, we have to align things according to business processes, etc. The third level is the level of legal frameworks for the information to be perceived by jurisdictions of various countries in the same way, and for this information to be able to be shared. And the fourth pillar is to manage the data. It is necessary to do so. Not everything goes by itself. And just like other organizations work, in our commission we work according to processes and the documents that we have. This slide on the screen illustrates the idea of the conveyor of data. I have been speaking about single window. A single window is how old? Like 10 years. It has been on the agenda of foreign trade. And this is like studying math. If you missed one lesson, the next year it will be difficult for you to conquer with new paragraphs in the textbook. But still, single windows are under construction, but the next step is the pipeline, the data pipeline. And in this slide, I wanted to illustrate what this means. This is the conveyor of pipeline of data, and this is received from different stakeholders, from the first, second, and third. And in the future, information on trade will be in one pipeline. The information will get there and or will get developed. So this is how customs and regulatory authorities are going to work in the future. In the meantime, there's a company called Maersk IBM, that has received the idea of creating this data pipeline. And by the end of the year, Maersk plans to create a pilot, a prototype with IBM. They will pilot this. But still, the question is, who is going to oversight this data pipeline? Either the government or, as Maersk plans to organize it in supply chain that they're working with, or maybe this will be a private company. So we have to be thinking about these things.
So what is new in transportation and logistics? So we were talking about the digital corridors, and our colleagues from transportation have also new novelties that would be interesting to some of you. For example, together with MSAT on ERU is the International Union of Transportation. It's the e-tier, it's electronic TIR project, which is going to a new stage of development. But TIR in the Eurasian Union, and we're talking about the Eurasian Forum nowadays. China has become members of TIR, as well as India and Pakistan. So they signed the convention, and now they are involved in the procedure. So we should take into consideration the possibility for developing e-tier and incorporate the ideas of transit of goods into the national plans and for development of electronic corridors. Another element is the electronic CMR. And the work has been finished 2 weeks ago, and now we have electronic forms for CMR, which has now standards based on the UNEC Convention on the Transportation of Goods, of cargoes. So this is another development that you can use. So this is the map or the geographical coverage of new members of TIR, China, India and Pakistan, and you can see the new dynamics in terms of transit, transportation of cargoes in the Eurasian Union. So in conclusion, I would like to say a few words about the things that we hopefully will work on with Belarus in future, which is the simplification of trading procedures. Belarus is still to accede to the World Trade Organization, and last year a new agreement came into force on the facilitation, simplification of trading procedures. And there are certain points that are related to the automation of trading procedures. So this is a huge topic in terms of the simplification of supply chains, and the simplification of trading procedures covers only certain items like one-stop shop, or the digitalization, automation of procedures is very important. And in this regard, in my opinion, it will be beneficial for Belarus as for other countries like Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, so that Belarus conduct the assessment of its readiness to apply the measures envisaged by this agreement, and based on the assessment, it should see what other actions should be taken before Belarus announce, and then Belarus can say what measures are required and how much time is needed. And then Belarus can apply for differentiated approach when exceeding WTO. So this is one of our proposals, in addition to using the international standards to assess the readiness of Belarus to apply the measures of WTO when exceeding the WTO. Right now, the Belarusian delegation participates in the meeting of the working group on WTO on the accession of Belarus right this week, and hopefully we'll be able to talk with the main negotiator about this opportunity of conducting such assessment. So if any of you is interested in discussing this issue, I'm ready to discuss it with you. So here you can see the benefits from exceeding the simplified trading procedures agreement, and how we can help in assessing the readiness, whether the country is ready, or it's like category A. If not, if the country requires more time, it's category B, and if foreign assistance is needed, it's category C. Thank you for your attention. So really, I should be in Geneva myself right now to participate in the negotiations on WTO, but I opted for today's forum. Now I'm like to give the floor to the Vice President of the Chamber of Trade and Commerce of Russia. Maxim Fateev. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the President of the Chamber of Trade and Industry of the Russian Federation, I would like to greet you all on this forum. And the digital transformation in ICT is a blanket term or definition that serves a foundation for the development of many companies. So for many years, the developing countries have been investing in the digital transformation to strengthen their domestic market positions, to increase the competitiveness of their goods and services, and the considerable role of the states as a regulatory authority that first improves the production environment and in order to reduce the cost, does not only improve the climate, but also helps raise the foreign investments from the countries where digitalization is a key point. So digitalization penetrates all areas of our life, which is, and one of the applications, the blockchain. And the approaches are quite different here, and today we have a demand for the standardization of those processes that will allow us to form a unified ecosystem and will help us reduce the costs. This work, in our opinion, should be deployed in the Eurasian Union. And this technology also removes the necessity for using the services of financial institutions and helps us transfer the assets at a reduced cost, which can become a significant challenge for financial institutes and different economic systems that do not want or do not want to adapt or respond to such changes. A lot of major banks are now investing in the study of blockchain technologies to see how they can incorporate them into their strategies. With the development of blockchain technologies, we'll have a new group of countries which are different in terms of their economic development. Many economies and domestic markets that are at the moment classified as weakly, slowly developing countries can become and enter the group of developed countries. And by using cryptocurrency and using the favorable legislative framework, those countries can improve their macro and microeconomical indicators. In Russia, Belarus, and some other countries, a mass-scale work on the formation of legislative framework on cryptocurrencies is being conducted. So our Chamber of Commerce and Industry opts for the creation of favorable environment for trade and commerce and regards cryptocurrency not as a speculative means of income, but also as an alternative source for investing into projects. The Parliament of the Russian Federation now submitted a package of draft laws prepared with our participation on the developing of optimal solutions. So the Chamber of Commerce of Russia has an expert group on cryptocurrencies headed by the Counselor to the President, Mr. German Kremenko. I would like to point out that the expert knowledge is not limited to cryptocurrencies only. The cybersecurity, the implementation of digital technologies into entrepreneurial society, and the three major effects of digital transformation pointed out by companies around the world is a reduction of costs, improvement of services, and increased productivity. 61% of companies in Russia point out that digital technologies facilitate the increased competitiveness, and 44% of companies across the globe implement the digital development strategies to improve their businesses. There is an acute need for the optimization of internal resources to modern standards in those organizations that use outdated business resources. First of all, it is relevant for companies that are willing to move forward, and they should develop on their own business culture strategies based on the reduction of costs, increased competitiveness, and the companies are suggested to develop and implement measures to accelerate their own capacity and the culture required for the successful implementation of automation methods, and for more loyal attitude of staff towards those changes that will fit the new strategy of the company development. Within the strategy, it is planned to automate not only the internal processes, but also reduce the costs and attract investments. It is a vital component of the formation of highly productive digital business, is the possibility of using mass amounts of data for decision-making, experimenting and moving forward into the era of digital technologies. Without those capacities, the companies will stagnate. The ability not only to use data, but also to effectively implement, use and store those data are the challenges faced by many companies now. And those that are not willing to adapt will simply disappear. The adaptation of business processes and functions, and principally new methods of processing, storage and transfer of data and material assets at micro and macroeconomical level, is the key aspects of digital transformation in the modern times. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we should mention the role of the government as the main regulating and controlling authority that can facilitate or impede the digital transformation of the country in the sector of production and other industrial sectors. We should understand that flexible understanding of digital transformation and improvement of micro and macro indicators will help improve the investment climate in the country. The active use of new technologies will allow to improve the positions of the government in a qualitative and quantitative matters, and improve its status as a reliable partner in the global arena. The Chamber of Commerce of Russia will continue working on the legal framework for the development of digital economy, and will continue consultations with experts, business and scientific circles in Russia and abroad, with the goal to improve the economic climate of the country. And I'm sure that by working together we can achieve the desirable results. Dear colleagues, according to the agreement with the host of the forum, I invite the famous lawyer and co-chair of our expert group, Alexandra Tereshova, to deliver his speech. Thank you very much. Good morning, dear participants of this forum. I would like to extend my thanks to the host. This is my first time, and I remember in my youth in Afghanistan, and one of the colleagues was from this city who died not in Afghanistan but here. So I'd like to thank Belarus and all those present here. So what I wanted to say today is that the world and life are rapidly changing. We are entering a new era. It can be a third era or fourth industrial revolution, doesn't matter, but the world will never be the same again. All the participants stressed that the new era has arrived, when everything works if it fits three rules: fast, cheap, and in a good quality. If you meet those criteria, then all doors are open for you. If one of the requirements is not met, then it will be very difficult for you to compete. There are a lot of words have been said about the role of the government, different committees, commissions, entities that should and help the startups and young entrepreneurs and people. But I would like to say a few words about a human being, a citizen, about those who we are, We're now more than 7 billion on this planet. What unites us here? The fact that we are born, regardless of the skin color, gender, race, the place of birth, we all have our rights given us from birth, but some of the rights are taken away from us. At school, even on our families, they are limited somehow, and we don't understand how it's happening. And I would like to say that together with the Chamber of Commerce of Russia, we have implemented a project recently. We have the cutting-edge blockchain and the fastest blockchain in the world. We did it without the ICO, but I wanted to say that everything is possible, and there is a whole trade of people, a group of people whose job is to look for money. But if you have this passion for making the world better, then everything will be achievable for you, because all these lawyers, advocates, they think that every service is unique, and when we face a problem, we think that this problem is unique, but sometimes I had to act as a mediator in marriages, like with vice premier, etc. But those people are very difficult, find it very difficult to share their problems. So when you start doing this professionally, you realize that all problems that we face at home, at work, anywhere, when we talk with different companies that are trying to sell us something or provide us services, all services can be systemized and standardized. So what we do is as follows. We set up a market of legal services free for people, and that is based on blockchain. It can work in any country of the world, and because it is all based on two simple things: the willingness of people to obtain free legal assistance and not pay too much, and to be able to count on the quality and high-level assistance, and the willingness of lawyers to receive decent money for their services if those services meet the requirements set by the crowd wisdom, by people. Therefore, there are always common points that are relevant for all people. We've launched a project in Russia. We're going to launch it across the globe. We'll make the world a better place and a more attractive place, because when each of us realizes their rights, it will make a conscientious choice and will choose his or her behavior appropriately. No matter whether you're living in a smart city or not, if we don't have the citizen, then nothing will work as fast as you would like it to work, because there should always be a component of trust, and the more trust you have, the more capabilities any country can have, regardless of its size, because the world of local companies is going to be extinguished, and two young people can change the world, can invent new things, they can tame the nature. Let's take a 100,000 population, which has 60 cars of coal going there to provide the necessary heating. And what you do is just you have to tame one lightning. So we are entering an era when nothing is impossible, when the new technologies serve our purposes, and we are able to implement our most ambitious projects and wishes. Today we're seriously talking about immortality, about eternal life. This already exists, but there are already proofs of that. We have transplantation of head, and there are people that had heart and brain transplanted.
Let us remember about people. Let us remember that each of us has rights, and we have to be We don't have to be selfish in exchanging the data, and the world is our common world. Thank you.
Лучшая практика блокчейна в области юриспруденции. Проект RightCoin. Александр, спасибо и поздравляем вас.
Сегодня в России действует, я хочу подчеркнуть это, действует 180 с лишним палат.
Каждый из нас имеет не только обязанности, но имеет большое количество прав, гарантированных нам Конституцией.
Люди должны образовываться и понимать, что проблема государства, да, района, города заключается в том, что ты не можешь построить свою личность и свою жизнь.
Хочешь найти решение, не смотри вдаль, загляни в себя. Я хочу напоследок показать вот первый в мире, или один из первых в мире.
I would like to show you that it is one of the first mobile phones in the world that can already mine cryptocurrencies. So everything happens fast. And this is for us, and this is not a Huawei telephone. Well, we definitely value Huawei when we believe that they are one of the best, and this is a model of a new phone, but what it can get us to digital jurisdiction. When we spoke about this, we can see that these are the technologies that penetrate our life, and this changes the entire structure of business relations between people, companies, and between people, citizens, and the government. Thank you once again. Distinguished colleagues, we proceed, and I would like to ask you to follow the schedule, because unfortunately we are about to launch the exhibition where all of us are going to participate. The next speaker is the main researcher. Is Edvins Karnitis, leading researcher at Latvian University and consultant in Multisectoral Coordinating Center. Hello everyone, thank you for inviting. Indeed, this is really interesting to be at such an event. We could hear multiple options and opportunities given to us by digitalization of economy, of social life. There was also a presentation about the legal issues. So the question is, what is the main thing? What shall we base on? What shall we prioritize? Where shall we invest into in order to get the feedback? And for all this to work and for all this to be based on tangible things, because lots of things are on the surface, many of the things can be counted, but even more things are underwater, submerged into water, and this is the part that improves processes, that accelerates processes, and that cannot be calculated directly. So we are going to introduce you the results of our efforts that we had in this area in order to show you where we shall invest and what can be the return of this investment and what are the main drivers of this digital economy. Since modeling was based on the data from the EU countries, then first of all, for this to be interesting for you, we can show where Belarus is according to the main indicators if compared to European countries that neighbor Belarus. These are the Baltic states in the north, the Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, and Slovak Republic on the west, and on the south it is the Ukraine, and on the east it is Russia. And let us take a look at the quality of broadband connectivity, the quality of internet channels, and Belarus is on the level with these countries, and no. And that's why we can say that, for example, if we take a look at this, the results of modeling can also be referred to Belarus. If you take a look at the trends, then the situation in Belarus is much better than in many neighboring countries. And I also had an opportunity to be at Tibet 2011, and this year I can see this huge improvement that happened in Belarus in all these sectors. So what can we see after modeling was reviewed based on the Digital Economy and Society Index of the European Union that comprises over 30 parameters. Certainly 30 parameters is too much in order to invest into all. Where is it? That's why, using modeling, we decided to prioritize these factors. It was done based on the GDP as the main economic indicator, and this is the same in digital economy. We took all countries of European Union, but for Luxembourg, which is out of the line, and the time frame was 4 years. So what can we see? We can see the model, which has certainly a high statistical tolerance, and we can believe this system, this model. This model identifies 7 main parameters that impact the GDP, and 6 of them impact GDP directly. They are red, and 1 of them is less significant. So let us abandon this and take a look at these 6 parameters. So the first is broadband connectivity. I'm speaking about coverage. And there's an interesting thing. Everybody speaks about fast internet of 100 megabit and faster. The current situation proves that the main thing is to ensure complete country coverage for all countries. If you consider the entire territory, then coverage is from 70 to 90%. But this is not balanced, and in China you could hear that in some countries, in some regions, some rural areas are not covered. The same happens in our countries. It is more important to have 100% of broadband coverage of more than, so this is more important to have 10 megabit everywhere in the country rather than having 100 megabit in cities, because this does not impact economic development significantly. Whatever we say about cloud computers and big data, this is only the beginning of introduction of these technologies, and this is on a small scale. That's why let's take a look at the importance of 100% coverage with fixed broadband internet. Now, speaking of wireless connectivity, then today this is less important. Wireless connectivity is less important in terms of data transmission and connectivity, But of course, its importance grows not only in terms of logistics, but also it grows in terms of other sides. It's important for business and for work to allocate all frequencies that are allocated for that. In the European Union, this is about 1,200 megabit, and the more they will be there, they will be given to mobile communications and for fixed communications using Wi-Fi or WiMAX. The next thing is skills and knowledge of how to use it. In the Maslow pyramid, the main element, the second main element, is how to know how to use things. 2/3 of workplaces require a certain literacy level, and we are not at that level still. Correlation between internet usage and database usage is different. But people who use internet, who work with banks, etc., those people have IT literacy, which is still insignificant, which means that all the good things that we speak about won't be used in full, since there are no such skills and knowledge. Speaking of IT experts, ICT experts are very needed. They are very needed for this purpose. We can see shortage of them in all countries. They are headhunted by one country in the other, and here we can see a threatening situation, because in all countries payment of services or wages of ICT experts, these ICT experts are paid more, and the lower wages are in one country, the bigger the gap is, and the more ICT experts are interested to move to other countries, which means that low-income countries have lower-income countries have difficulties headhunting ICT experts because they are more expensive to them. And this gap is filled by low-qualified experts. These first-grade university students, amateurs, start doing this, which means decreasing quality. So we have to balance these capacity of tuition and the needs for these jobs, which is more significant for our region. I have already mentioned the general skills. General ICT skills shall be supported by school curricula and university curricula, and all these things shall be covered through the tuition programs, and our region still has lots of things to improve. Now, when we have both things, we can take a look at business. Doing business is what has been analyzed by this model. We've analyzed the situation inside companies and between companies. Inside companies, digital technologies are used for management, for administering resources, for planning, and this is critically important and necessary for timely work in order to decrease costs, etc., etc. So these are various systems of planning. They have to be implemented in order for the economy to operate according to new requirements, and also CRM systems are important, especially considering that in our region there are things to take a look at, and there are things to improve. If you take a look at Lithuania, it's the only country that looks promising in this dimension. If you take a look at online business transactions, we can see that it is being introduced in various countries. First, people place orders, and then it happens in the country, and then they start exporting. So this still, there are still many things to be desired, and you can see that online export share is very small. It's significant to say that this share is growing, but good coverage of good coverage inside the company does not mean that the company ensures good export supplies. You can see the last image. There is no correlation, there is no linkage between in-house achievements and export capacity of the enterprise. So there are things still to improve, and for us to have a baseline for all these good things that we are speaking about. And the last thing, there are 6 main drivers that I've mentioned, and they shall be considered as a portfolio. And if there is 1 or 2 missing, then we won't succeed. We have to be working in all of these areas. I'm not speaking about the shares of every of these 6 factors, but we have to invest in the infrastructure, into knowledge and skills, and knowledge of experts, all people who work, and all end users, and only after that we will be able to get the result that we expect. Thank you. Thank you. One more presenter, who is Vytautas Vitauskas, an independent expert of the Infobalt Association from the Republic of Lithuania. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sending you best regards from Vilnius. It started raining there, but you don't have it yet. As you understand from the previous presentation, Lithuania is the most promising country in the Baltics, among the Baltic states, despite the fact that everybody says that Estonia is #1. So we are here today in order to show off a bit, to tell you about the things that we've managed to do and what we are doing in cooperation with our best neighbors, which means Belarusians. And we would like to tell you how we develop our digital trade and how we penetrate digital markets. I'm pushing all keys on the remote, but it won't work. I cannot change slides. Yes, digital transformation is very developed, but still, maybe you can do it. Who can help us changing slides without using a remote control? Colleagues? Well, this is called the Murphy's Law. Okay, I wanted to be speaking about... Okay, go ahead. I would like to show off and tell you about the HDM initiative. This is for the initiative of harmonizing digital markets in the Eastern Partnership countries. So we, the Association of Infobalt, that I headed back in 2013 when I was the president of this, and the association of the Belarusian association called InfoPack. Your presentation has not been loaded to the computer. I have the following proposal. Let us troubleshoot this issue. Maybe you switch turns with the next presenter, and then they will be tackle this issue. I wouldn't like your speech to be perceived without the presentation. No problem. But then I will be speaking less. Okay, colleagues, let's swap presenters. Valery Verkovsky, an expert of the European Network for EU for Digital E-Trade. Hello, colleagues. I would like to tell you are the following.
In addition to the strategic plans, Belarus has been actively working on finding the instruments and models on how those plans on digitalization to implement them. So my presentation's title is Approaches to Harmonization of Digital Markets in the Eurasian continent's countries, the experience of EU and Eastern Partnership countries. So how do I change the next slide? Okay, it works. So virtually 5 years ago in autumn 2013, when in Lithuania we had a regular ICT forum of the Eurasian countries, our Lithuanian colleagues suggested holding a session on how the Eastern Partnership countries could participate in the development of the single digital market. An initiative was proposed, which later was called the Initiative on Harmonization of Digital Markets, and HDM initiative, with the participation of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine, with the support of the European Union. So when they started working on the meaning of harmonization, they realized that it was a vital process in the building of single space by convergence and integration of markets, by overcoming regulatory barriers and the leveling out of digitalization levels, because countries have different levels of digitalization and infrastructure development. Therefore, the level should have been leveled out. So the participants at the level of the Digital Europe Association realized that the initiative on harmonization can become an efficient instrument for cooperation in the region. So 2-3 years later, the initiative was participated by more than 20 European countries and Eastern Partnership, and the initiative was actively promoted with the support of the European Commission. Over the 3 years of the development of the initiative, more than 20 topical workshops were conducted on priority areas of that initiative. 2 major studies were conducted on priority areas on the development of digital markets. They are enlisted here, enumerated here. And the solutions that were developed during the initiatives to make them legalized, 2 ministerial meetings on digital economy were conducted of EU and Eastern Partnership countries. And to develop the initiative, the European Commission suggested making 6 topical networks that were called by EU for Digital Telecom. It's telecom, e-skills, computer literacy, trust and security, e-health, and ICT innovation. So those networks were actively operational as the expert level in 2016-2017. They were making their plans and agreeing on those plans and submitting them for approval by the European Commission. In addition to those organizational matters, sooner or later we had to identify the essence of the harmonization. There are a lot of several components, and first of all, you cannot harmonize markets if you don't have skills in forming a win-win cooperation. And it is easy to protect the digital markets by regulatory means, and you need to set up win-win relationships, and then we need to ensure the balance of interests here. And if you don't spend time on finding the balance, there will be no cooperation. A third important component is the transfer of knowledge, because in different countries there are different centers of competence, and the transfer of knowledge is quite a serious and efficient component of cooperation. Another important element is technological standards, because if whereas markets were harmonized in terms of regulatory means, without the harmonization of technological standards, you wouldn't achieve anything. So the incentives for the regional cooperation. So what were the incentives for the Europeans to work with us, and what could be our input from the side of the Eastern Partnership countries? So since EU has been integrating for 20 years now, the legislative, regulatory, expert reviews on harmonization and integration of markets and legislative frameworks are very important. The European Union conducted very good work on building the construction blocks of digital infrastructure, which were developed in a centralized manner, and then they were suggested to be replicated in all EU countries, which then helped countries interact in a very easy manner. So we analyzed this experience and decided to borrow it. Also, there is a lot of experience accumulated in developed markets of how to ensure the interoperable services, and how to promote those services on the market. So as far as the input of the Eastern Partnership countries is concerned, we're talking a bit about the pool of IT professionals. As you know, the Eastern Europeans are quite serious players in the IT outsourcing market, and there are a lot of major players from the Eastern Europe in the American and British markets as well. So it can be attractive for the EU countries as well, as far as the preferential access to our markets is concerned. As for the main areas of harmonization, we have 4 main layers. Is a regulatory legislative harmonization. The second layer is the harmonization of technical standards. Then we have the level of systems of products and services, and the fourth layer is specific components of digital markets related to e-trade, e-logistics, etc. So this item was analyzed based on a big number of data, and those 4 layers of cooperations were formed. As for the role of business in the harmonization of digital markets, from the outset, the initiative was developed with active participation of business, and business was the driving force behind it. So out of the 20 countries that were shown on the map, so from each country we had a national agency or association which became part of the pool of cooperation. It was took the form of bilateral or multilateral agreement, and here you can see the list, complete list of the countries that participated in the implementation of the initiative. So after the massive investment of time and resources, and after they have been structured and the participants started understanding how the projects can be implemented, a model of PPP, private-public partnership, were proposed. We have 6 Eastern Partnership countries plus 28 European countries. We had to think of a model of win-win cooperation and to implement multilateral projects. So the initiative on PPP was suggested at the last ministerial meeting. It's called Alliance, EU for Digital Alliance, with the main mission to promote the pan-European digital market space as an incubator for IT projects. So the countries that participated in the forming of such a multilateral consortium, they realized the complexity of the entire process, and the consortium itself should have been kind of incubated in terms of finding the module and ensuring the balance of interests. Since we are talking about a multilateral cooperation program, which has been already developed and took the form of a big budget program and is being organized and took the form of a tender organized by European Commission. So a model of interaction of participation was proposed, participation of the alliance, and now we're waiting for the final decision who is going to be the main contractor for the European Commission for such a large-scale program. This is a 3-year program from 2018 to 2020 with a considerable budget. At the same time, it is quite difficult to implement it. 6 countries, 6 topics, and a lot of projects that have been elaborated. So this is the experience and the outcome of how we developed the interaction and cooperation between Eastern Partnership and EU countries. And my colleague wanted to say a few words about the practical experience and the outside look. From the EU, he represents Sorbonne Economics, and he participated in a great number of such projects. So, Vladimir, I would like to give you the floor. Good afternoon. I would like to give you an overview of the practical outcome of our work within the projects of harmonization of digital markets, as my colleague said, within the EU and Eastern Partnership projects, and also the experience in the implementation of the Eurasian Economic Commission project on one-stop shop, and also project on the creation of a single transit transportation system. So, in a nutshell, the main problems faced on the way of the digitalization of trade and logistics is that when crossing the border, the business processes are organized in such a way that the crossing of the border requires papers, and while the processes may be digitalized on both sides, when you cross the border, the documents are transported in a hard copy. So this is the major barrier on the harmonization, In our opinion, harmonization is not only using the best practices and adaptation, but the usage of those systems to increase the trade turnover and to improve the trackability of cargoes from across the entire chain from the manufacturer to the consumer. The second problem, barrier on the way of the harmonization is the interoperability of information systems in each country, and especially for the purposes of cross-border transfer of data. This issue creates difficulties because it does not allow to transfer data electronically, because the systems are not interoperable. Even within one country, to transfer the document, to hand over the document from one agency to another agency, there are no systems that would be able to work with both formats. And the third barrier in cross-border e-trade is that the mutual recognition and verification of data is also impeded, because the practical implementation of mechanisms on the verification of e-identification is difficult. So what are the main ways out for us to build a harmonized trade and logistics systems based on the experience of several projects? So what could be the conclusions? First of all, we should try and use the and integrate the existing systems. Within the Eurasian Union, after many years of testing, we've set up systems that the Eastern Partnership countries could partially use to trade with the European Union. it would be much faster rather than trying and build your own platforms. And then you will ask the European Union to participate in your platforms. Secondly, in view of the globalization, it is important to build national digital platforms or regional digital platforms within the Eurasian Economic Council, as Ms. The previous speaker stressed. We need to ensure the security and safety, and for that we need to build our own national digital platforms. And thirdly, when building digital platforms, we need to make sure that those platforms are interoperable both at the regional and international levels. Therefore, we need to use the international standards for exchange of data, and we should ensure the interlinkage between business and e-data in order to be able to conduct electronic cross-border transactions. So our opinion, as for our opinion about the harmonization processes in Europe between the EU countries and Eastern Partnership countries, on the one hand, the Eastern Partnership countries try to harmonize with the European Union, and on the other hand they try to align the legislation with the Eurasian Economic Union. It would be much more efficient and simpler for the Eurasian Economic Union to find common grounds and align with the European Union, and at the same time the Eastern Partnership countries could use those common principles for simpler and faster harmonization into the common digital space. Thank you. Thank you very much, and I would love to go back to the interrupted presentation of our Lithuanian colleague. Hopefully we've been able to solve the technical problems. At least I can see things on the slide. So I have very little to say after such an informative presentation of my previous colleagues. And now everybody thinks about food and not about reports. So I have a very short remark about, and I will have a very few words to say, and I wouldn't like to overlap what's already been said. So HDM initiative has already been mentioned, and it was announced by Belarus together with Belarus, and we're very proud that this initiative was recognized at the European Union level by the European Commission, and now it resonates with the new digital strategy, EU for digital, and it was adopted by the European Union too. The digital single market strategy. So it has been officially recognized by the official authorities, and again, as I said, Digital Europe Alliance, which unites major companies of the European Union. So I skipped a slide. So this has already been covered. So during our meetings we announced the major areas that we would like to see what we should do in our Eastern Partnership countries, and in many of those areas the feasibility studies have already been conducted to identify steps and measures at the in the first place. It has already been mentioned by many of our reporters how e-commerce should be implemented, but trade is trade, but we need to purchase goods and pay for them, but the delivery of goods is the main problem in the modern world. And I acted as an expert in the study of what should be done in the Eastern Partnership countries, keeping in mind that things that we're doing or proposing to do in the Eastern Partnership countries,
certainly we think about Silk Road, and when we think about the European Union and the Eastern Partnership countries, we also think about the Eurasian Economic Union. Why Lithuania and why Belarus? I have tried to identify what are the peculiarities of this initiative, why this initiative has happened in this union. Maybe this is a primitive view, but still both Lithuania and Belarus are the transport corridor between East and West, and probably the main flows of commodities and goods travel through our countries. I would also say that in Belarus there's an important factor that there is a very strong capacity in development of information and communication technologies. This is the legacy of the Soviet Union. Lithuania developed semiconductors and Belarus developed software development, and still you can feel it. Lithuania is top one in laser, as a laser machines, laser units, manufacturer in the world. I would also like to stress the political will that is there, because when we speak about all these initiatives through which we would like to create a single market of e-services in this environment, in the Eurasian community, then I would say that all analyzers, all researchers always say strong political will is the main prerequisite, the main factor of success. I have already mentioned that we are sitting on the transport corridor, and if we look from west to east, then these are the main routes. And if you take a look at the trains that go to Lithuania, then if you add Belarus, then it would be red, gray, or blue. And when we speak about problems that accompany movement of goods, then we can say that official statistics is simple. There are 2/3 of the global population living in the countries of the Silk Road, because these populations get goods from the Silk Road. In this region, there are 25% of production that are happening, and also 40% of transportation cost of goods, 40% of expenditures related to transportation are originated here, and so this time is lost primarily when crossing borders. Also, speaking of the transport corridors that I've already mentioned, then we would like to show off a bit, because there's the Viking train. It's a container train that has been circulating for over a decade. It unites Black and Baltic Seas, and Lithuania and Belarus were the first countries to tackle the issue of single-time processing of documents for the goods after the goods leave the CIS territory, and then they get in the CIM area according to the CIM standards, and then customs authorities, both from Lithuania and from Belarus, have treated it well, and as you can see, customs formalities when crossing the border between Belarus and Russia takes only 30 minutes today. So, I could hear the things said in Latvia last year, and this has also been said in Belarus. Belarus, it was said, is facing the fact that by 2020, 20,000 trains will enter the territory of Belarus from the east. I think this 30 minutes formality is supposed to tackle this issue, especially considering that, according to statistics, formalities, according to the old law of the Eurasian Economic Union, and it was called, it was said 24 hours, maybe I lie, but I know that according to the new code of the Eurasian Economic Union, it has been officially declared that the time is reduced from 24 hours to 4 hours. What are we going to face? We're going to face new codes, both in the Eurasian Economic Union and we're going to face a new customs code of the European Union, and those both codes, as I read them, pay a lot of attention to the fact that all the documents can be circulating in a digital form. So we can say that we already have this good luck, and all of us have a chance to abandon paper documents. We can move to e-documents. Lithuania and Belarus have already said that we decided to have this initiative, and South Korea, for example, that tackled the issue by using paperless trade in customs and logistics, is what they have, and the entire region of the neighboring countries decided to tackle this, and 620 documents were moved on a digital platform. They spend over $500 million per year, but the net profit of this is $5.4 billion. So, we already have all factors for success, and we can use it in order to tackle these issues and to abandon paper in foreign trade, and we can move to electronic trade. Everything depends on us. The issue is simple. We either are merging our efforts, and then we serve the dish on a big plate, which is called a single window, and then we make a big pie, and then I think that it will cost not less than $1 billion per year. And if we're going to utilize blockchain, then we can make it happen, or we can keep isolated in our little windows, and we can eat things, like we did before. So, distinguished colleagues, this is the end of our agenda that we had. Those who read the agenda carefully, you could see that I missed my own presentation, but I used the right of the moderator to wrap up today's discussion. Today, lots of things have been said about global and national strategies of development of the digital sector, let's call it this way. We perfectly understand that fundamental and necessary of digital transformation for future civilization is clear to the majority of countries in the world. It is also clear that the very technologically developed countries in the world that invest billions or dozens of billions into the development of this sector are in despair because the speed and the scale of changes and their impact on all spheres of the society are tremendous, and we are facing versatile issues: how to merge and align these new systems with the legal system, how to project their development, how they're going to impact the life and business and the mindset of the humankind, how to regulate cryptocurrencies and blockchain, what's going to happen with the banking field and what's going to happen with transportation, etc., etc. These issues also put questions before analytics and futurologists, but the most important thing is that no country in the world cannot meet the challenges of the today. Only openness and cooperation can help finding answers to the global challenges to progress. It is clear for all of us that digital transformation is a way that all of us are doomed to go. And the question is whether we are taking our own ways that are going to be different, or whether we are going to convert it into a field of competition, or we are going to find common places and we are going to tackle issues for the sake of all of us. Today, under the regional cooperation, we make very important steps in order to merge our efforts. And there's a good reason for us to call this event the first Eurasian Digital Forum, because we believe that future digitalization of our region depends on future cooperation, mutual help, and mutual successes. I would like to use these words to wrap up this meeting, to wish you all the best at multiple events of our agenda, and enjoy the bright digital future. Thank you. And now I would like to invite all of you to participate in the ceremony of grand opening of Tsibo exhibition in the neighboring building at 1300 hours. Thank you.